A very good day I bid to Madam Saloma as a course coordinator for MDJ1612 Cognitive Science. We are from Group 4 and our seminar topic presentation is Language is an expression of racial, geographic, cultural and religious tendencies. So this is my group members. I, Javier Anak Joseph, next Marcella, Nur Hazira, Nur Hazika, Nur Izati, Nurul Arina, and Emmeline. So for an introduction of this seminar presentation is what is a language? So a language is a system of communication that consists of a set of sound and written symbols that are used by the people of a particular country or region for talking or writing. So the words and expression used and understood by a large group of people. So why can language be expressed in different aspects? And for this, effective use of language is ultimately an important relationship between interpersonal communication skill and interconnected aspects based on race, geography, culture, and religion. So these various aspects of language shown in communities all over the world contribute to diversity, which is the complexity of the human experience as well as richness in linguistics. Next, why is language important? So, language acts as a medium for an effective communication and expression and understanding of thoughts and emotion delivered by self or others. Then, effects of languages in bad and good ways. So, for this, no one can deny how useful language is in improving communication because we could express our thought and belief. On the contrary, language affects our perception of people, which sometimes is built of prejudice and stigma against those who do not share the same language with us.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Arina Binti Abu Sama. My mandate number is 78460. I will present about language is an expression of phrase. Definition of race. Race is a grouping of humans based on their shared characteristics. For example, skin color, language, history, and culture. It shows that they coexist within that group. Miley, 1996, in his book The Meaning of Race, he said, everyone knows what is a race, but no one can quite define it. As race is subjective, no one can quickly define it. Next is Introduction to Racial Linguistics. Racial linguistics is another branch of linguistic study. Sociolinguists and linguistics anthropologists have previously studied the intersection of language, race, and culture. The term racial linguistics was popularized by Nelson Frost, an educational linguist, and Jonathan Rosa, an anthropologist, back in 2015. In their discussion of appropriateness in American language and education, they investigate how language shapes race and how race shapes language. It is essentially a viewpoint that believes race and language are inextricably linked. Racial linguistics is a connaturalization between race and language. In other words, construction of language plays a key role in bringing forth racial divergence and vice versa.
Good day and greetings. I am the research assistant with Investin with number matrix of 78449. I will talk about racial linguistics in Malaysia. As we all know, Malaysia is a multi-ethnic and multicultural country. The diversity of ethnic and cultures are the result of British colonialism. A policy that separated Malaysia's major ethnic groups, which are Malays, Chinese, and Indians, was implemented, resulting in racial polarization. As said by Ridwan, racial linguistics exists in Malaysia due to its multiracial population. For Malay language, the correlation between Malays and their language can be seen if we trace back time, where classical Malay sentences was less influenced by another two major ethnic groups. These sentence structures can be seen in some classical Malay literature. For example here, Ya Tuan Kusya Alam, Jika Patik diceraikan dengan Tuan Patik, baiklah Shah Alam ceraikan badan Patik dengan kepala Patik. It's a piece of sentence from Hikayat Raja Pasai. Another example would be, badan aku rasa macam nak demam. Aku tak suka lah sakit macam ni. It's a sentence from a novel Di Sebalik Kinara by Dayang Nur. These two sentence structures are different despite both from Malay literature. These differences are influenced by modernization and times. Classical sentence structure tends to have flowery words. On the other hand, modern literature tends to have direct words with some elements such as syncop, tak, nak, ni, and such in a sentence. These structures can be seen as an element that identifies two sentence structures are from the Malays. Chinese in Malaysia mostly uses Mandarin, and the most common dialect used is Hokkien. What makes the expression of language different from the other two major ethnic groups are the differences in sentence structures, how the sentences are delivered, and the tones in each syllable. For example, "Hayo, mana saya tahu oh." Our mind can automatically register the different tones and their sentence structure. This also can be a bahasa rojak since in that one sentence, element of Malay and Chinese language is present. Next would be Indian. Most of Malaysian Indians are Tamils, so they spoke Tamil. And other than when they spoke Indian language, one of the most common sentences we can hear is "Ane tertarik satu." We can automatically register the accent and tone as one of the most used sentences in Mamak's story. This phenomenon happens due to the fact that we are familiar with other races and their sentence structure to the point that it becomes a normal occurrence in our daily life. This one can also be a bahasa rojak since words from Indian and Malay language are mixed in one sentence. Manglish, on the other hand, is when the formation of sentence is influenced by English and Malay to make up a meaningful sentence. For example, "You boleh lari meh?" The use of "meh" may differ relying on its tone. For instance, "meh" means come or give me, meanwhile, "meh" means really. However, some words can be said in the same tone, but the meaning may differ depending on the sentence structure. Cabut may mean pluck out, however, in some situations it may mean run or let's go. This sentence formation is also known as bahasa pasar, in which is an informal language used by all races in Malaysia. Last will be bahasa raja. It is the act of mixing languages from different races into one sentence. For reference, "Auntie, boleh tahu ini nasi kah?" Notice that element of English, Malay, and Chinese is present in that one sentence. The fact that every race will use this kind of sentence shows that this kind of sentence formation is universal. Due to various elements that exist in it, it is hard to determine what race it originated from. However, as Malaysia's official language is Malay, we can see that most of the sentence formation are dominated by Malay language. That will be all for my presentation.
Hi, I am Nur Hazir Hasna binti Jamil with matrix number 78392. So I will explain the language is an expression of geography. The outline of this topic are the language and geography itself, and the second one are the varieties of English in the modern world, and the common indicator that I choose here is British and Scotland. Why? Because there are the same language is English, but sounds different. So there are lots of language variation that in other words, we call it as a dialect. Dialect is a different kind of accent that people have that use particular different word in everyday life, and also the structure of the sentence itself. The most significantly is the vowel use. Even though dialects are peculiar and contrast between one another in a conversation, but it is still understandable for some people that use different dialect of the same language. However, there are some dialects that hardly to understand for a non-native speaker. Here are the varieties of English in the modern world, which are divided into 4 parts. The first part is British Islands, next is Africa, and then Asia, and then America and Pacific. But here I will specifically look at the British Island itself, which is British. British used commonly as the received pronunciation, for short is RP. It is a standard national language, or in other words, as known as British received pronunciation, BBC English, Queen's English, and Posh accent. The speakers of received pronunciation are to be found around London and southeastern of England, even though it is hardly to find them because it is widely used. So London is the capital city of United Kingdom. It is covered around by main topographical of Thames River. Thames River have many tributaries, but most of which are currently underground as they flow through London. And London is actually vulnerable to flood. That is why they built the Thames River as an early prevention to the flood. So we move on to the specific vowel, which in London they have U and U sound for the wonder and wonder words, and the specific use of words such as banger. For example, this song is a banger, it means a good song. But when in other area we mention banger, something is a banger, it means that a sausage that we have a mash. Where in Scotland, that is more northerly or far part of the United Kingdom, which one third of the island of Great Britain, universally symbolize glacial or means lakes, and snowy mountains and tartan. So for the Scotland, they have this Scottish accent. They have the same vowel used for different words, where they do not have the U sound. For example, put and look. Put will use the look sound, which will pronounce as put, look, like that. And for a different word that they use is not common for us, it's lassie. It just simply mean as a girl or a young woman, and could be other part of country or area doesn't know what it means. So the existence of the dialect makes the language more appreciable and maintained. Thank you.
Then, language is an expression of culture. So, what is the definition of culture? So, culture is the disaggregated structure of human thought, belief, and action that is dependent on the ability to acquire and pass on information to future generations. This is by Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So basically, it's how humans work with their environment to utilize potential. Next is language or culture come first. Since the beginning, humans have been communicating and engaging one another in various ways. As a result, the language came first for obvious reasons. Language is both the source and the essence of a culture. Relationship between language and culture. The meaning of a given language indicates the culture of a specific social group. Interacting with a language interacting with the culture that serves as its foundations. Language as means for individuals to connect, form relation and sense of belonging. Different cultural societies put together collective understanding through sound as language developed. When a language is lost, a piece of culture is also lost as culture has a strong influence on the language. This is by Ken Hale, a well-known linguist. Language quickens exchange in tradition, ideas, and interpersonal interactions.
Hello, I am Masyala Mendong Anakba, whose metric number is 78123. We will start this part with the importance of language as an expression of culture. Firstly, without prior knowledge for basic cultural understanding, human only relies on linguistic expertise. This is one of the main factors that could lead to miscommunication. Next, culture shapes beliefs, ethics, and how we think. This happens because each culture has heavily biased preferences and views of desirable traits. Thus, our personalities evolve with our culture and language. It is also the first factor to discriminate between different cultural orientations, as different cultures use different languages. Lastly, it also conditions for social growth. Next, we move on to learning what is paralanguage. Paralanguage could be defined simply as body language, voice tone, or sound. Since it differs on the individual's origin, it might trigger miscommunication as they might have opposing views of certain gesture. Now we'll take a look at a few examples of language as an expression of culture. Hmong community has whistle language that they use to communicate in long distances. Since it is hard to differentiate between the whistle of a man to a bird, it helps to avoid the attention of predators and prey. The people also use it to communicate with their partners secretly by creating a whistling sound that holds a special meaning between them. The next example is the differences between Japanese and American greetings. Japanese people emphasize on the society's needs than individual gains. Thus, they tend to be more subtle and indirect to respect the other party. They will greet by bowing and talk while using honorifics. American people are more into the individualistic mindset where there is more freedom in expressing thoughts and belief. They do not mind touches if consent is confirmed. They shake hands in formal settings or hugs and kisses on the cheek in informal settings. As for general communication, polite Japanese people will never say no. Their yes could sometimes mean no too. Americans, on the other hand, are blunter in rejecting or opposing. If these two cultures are to communicate with each other, Americans need to pick up the hints to understand what Japanese people really want to say. This brings us to the last part for culture, which is what to do in cross-cultural communication. It is very important that we address and acknowledge the social hierarchies and structure to avoid disrespecting those who are of higher titles. By using respectful tone and being aware of the surrounding atmosphere, we can also avoid misunderstanding from here.
My name is Nur Azika binti Ismail. I will present for language is an expression of religion. How is the expression of religion? Religion can be expressed in various ways by the people that make reference to it as a religious expression. The use of language can help to sustain and develop religious identity. Therefore, symbols, words, actions, and sounds can express this religious identity. Symbol. Symbols can describe actions, words, and religious words. Symbols are used for written communication in certain language which relate to religious beliefs. In other words, symbols are strong and evoke power and symbolize what they refer to the religion. For example, attire or dress. Dress is one form that can be used as a religious symbol. These attire or symbols are usually used to indicate a person's beliefs to others. This shows an external expression of an inside faith in their own religion. However, regulations and laws in some countries prohibit them from expressing their religious beliefs due to the people that are outraged by religious expression like Islamophobic, anti-Christians, and other than that. For the second one is the symbol of Christian religion. Religious symbols can be one form of language expression in religion. For example, the symbol of Christian religion, which is the cross, is a powerful statement. As Christians, it will bring to their mind that cross is a symbol of faith in God as they believe in the sacrifice that Jesus made. For action, religious expression has an important role in the performance of some speech acts. Performing of speech acts such as greeting, complimenting, and thanking will determine the extent of which religion has an effect on language usage. For example, Muslims use the greeting Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to show blessing, which can be included in different speech acts as well as invocative acts to seek God's blessing or favor. In addition, Muslims use Insha'Allah in conversation. In the Islamic context, this term shows their beliefs in the future will happen according to God's will. Theologically, Muslims use this word if they make a promise. Word. Words provide a medium to connect with the divine via worship and prayer. Learn another language to evolve a better conception of a religion rather than just studying the philosophical and theological matters. For example, religions like Hinduism, which is now taught in a native language but was initially written in Sanskrit, and Christians used the Hebrew language before but now use various types of language such as English or Bahasa Melayu, Mandarin, and other than that. Sounds. There are three types of sounds for the High Court of Vedic India and also Catholic who use during their Mass: aloud, muttered, and silent. Aloud is for the priest who recited the hymns of praise and normally it is spoken at a faster pace, while muttered is for the priest who perform most of the physical handiwork. Last but not least, silence is when the priest is preparing himself for a prayer.
Morning, my name is Emily and I'm going to share you why do we need to express our faith. Normally, some Christians will organize caroling before the Christmas Eve. It is because they want to share the good news of baby Jesus is born. So, everyone have a desire to share about their religions with others because it is a way to express that an individuals value their religion. And faith can be expressed through prayer, religious talk, and religious songs. This promotes people's understanding and comprehending of the crucial lessons, as well as a greater understanding of God and faith. Last but not least, it can improve community understanding of the moral values. However, there are a group of people who are called religious extremism. The term extremism means they're holding ideas or beliefs that most people consider unreasonable. They are also using the language to express their religions towards the society. They are willing to murder as they embrace the theologies that sanction violence in the service of God. They have no sympathy towards those victims as they view those victims as the enemy of God, and they are always ready to sacrifice their own lives for their God. So, for the example of this religious extremism is ISIS. Let's see how they express their religion. First, they will produce high-quality videos in several languages as recruitment tool. The language used are 75 Arabic, 20% English, and 5 of the others language. And there are also an English video that entitled There is no life without jihad that features Western fighters who exhort others to join them. Second, ISIS have a lot of Twitter accounts that propagates the group message in through several languages. When one accounts are taken down, new ones will going to replace them. The propaganda used are focused on reporting the military success, and they express strong anti-American sentiment. For example, there are one fighter who was filmed tearing out his American passport and burning it. There was another one who says that killing American soldiers was justified.
In conclusion, language is an expression of racial, geographic, cultural, and religious tendencies. Therefore, we should not only appreciate our mother tongue, but also put a great effort to understand others' language so that we can become a global citizens and prevent misunderstanding. Indirectly, the origin of the language of a specific geographical area would not be disappeared by times along with the fast transition of word development.
Thank you. Terima kasih. Om Siko.
Merci beaucoup.
谢谢。
Arigato gozaimasu. Maraming salamat po.